Hey gang, it's Will from Tested.
And it's Norm from Tested.
Norman Chan.
That's my name.
My hub is on.
Ooh. OnHub.
On
Ooh,
hub.
that looks like a little trash can.
I'm going to blow you away. It looks like a Mac Pro, but tiny.
Yeah, tiny.
Hold on, it turns. Oh, which way does it
Unlock
turn? There we
your hub.
go. Oh no, I just locked it. Okay. I can unsleeve my hub.
Oh my God. Can we show that? Can we show that? Can children see
Watch,
that?
it goes up and down.
A naked router. That's Google's OnHub,
Yeah.
which is a router that they recently released.
Yes. So it's a kind of weird, interesting product. It's a really high-powered radio router packed in a really easy-to-use candy shell. It's not the fastest router that you can buy. There's a lot better options out there for that stuff, but it is going to be much, much more capable than pretty much anything you're going to. If you're running an 802.11n or older router, you'll probably see pretty substantial performance gains if you shell out $200 for this. But again, there's better options out there if you're looking for a super fast wireless router.
In terms of product technologies, routers can be scary. They can be.
It's funny. Routers are a difficult product to review because once you get them set up, basically people leave them in their garage or closet someplace and never think about them again until they either break or they get a new one.
Yep.
So like a lot of people spend a lot of time focusing on the setup. I think Google probably fell into that trap. I feel like for most people you can kind of set it up, change the Wi-Fi access point and password to the options that you want, and then you're probably okay.
That's it. Yeah.
Like that's last you need to look at it. If you want to go deeper, then you can buy a router. If you're a nerd, you want to geek out and run your network admin skills, then you can geek out and buy a router that's DDWRT or Tomato compatible or one of the other third-party firmwares. Download the firmware, flash the ROM, put your custom firmware on there, and get a much, much, much more capable router than you'll typically find in the $200 to $300 price range.
Got to open those ports.
Got to open those ports, got to get all the QoS business, all that stuff done. I've been running a DDWRT router at my house for a long time, simply because I want to have a dynamic DNS client. So that means that I have a domain address that I can type in, and it'll take me to my home, even when Comcast changes my public IP address, stuff like that. It makes it easy to share file servers and FTP servers and stuff like that over the internet. Not that you should do that.
Let's talk about what makes this unique.
Yes. So it's kind of a connected router, and I know that's a weird thing to say, but it's a little bit smarter. Rather than using a web interface to configure it,
192.168.1
or 10.15.0.1 or 192.168.1.1 or any of the other private IP address ranges, you connect to the Wi-Fi when you first plug this in, connect it to your WAN port on your cable modem, and then connect to Wi-Fi with one of your devices, either an iOS 7 Plus or Android device. I have my app right here. It's on my iPhone 6.
And even though you can't see it right now, it is connected. Even though it looks like there's no power or any other cables connected, it is plugged into power.
I have power, and then we're hooked up to our LAN inside the office. You can see right here. There's a power, a USB port that kind of does nothing right now, and then 2 Ethernet ports. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, we'll talk about those.
Yeah, the interesting, it does come with all the cables you need, which is kind of nice. Most routers come with 1 Ethernet cable at most, and they ship these nice flat Ethernet cables.
So thin.
They're pretty cool. They're a little short, I think.
Yeah.
But that depends on where you're going to put it.
Okay.
Okay.
So the app.
The app. The app is how you configure it. You set it up. You tell it to connect to your, whether you're going to connect it in router or bridge mode, or use it as an access point or as a router. I don't think you can put it in bridge mode where it is, you can do that with DDWRT. Basically what that lets you do is use it as a wireless link to connect wired Ethernet devices to a wireless network.
Yes.
But you can use it as just an access point. So that means you turn off the router functionality, the stuff that says, hey, turn this one IP address into 255 other IP addresses and let me connect up to 200 devices to my home internet connection. Yes. Exactly. When you set it up, it walks you through a really easy process. I actually hit a hitch when I was doing the setup because I didn't follow the instructions explicitly.
That's right.
I think they might have fixed this since then. But if you plugged in the LAN cable and connected it to your wired LAN, then it actually threw an error and kept timing out. When I unplugged the LAN cable, it went on as expected. Just to be clear, my mistake, 100%, I didn't follow the instructions. But everything I know about setting up routers led me to believe that this is just going to work. Yeah. It's worked on every other router I've ever set up. Access to the router's configuration also works over the internet. This is one of the benefits of using app-based and connecting through Google's cloud.
You sign into your email account, you're set up as a manager,
Exactly.
and you can tap into its settings and see what's going on, who's connected, even though you're not home.
So when you set it up, you literally associate it with your Gmail account, with your Google account. There are pros and cons to this. It's a little scary leaving your router connected to the internet in a configuration sense. It means that people could conceivably take it over. I tend to trust Google to get the security right, because if you do have two-factor set up on your Google account, you'll require two-factor to sign in. I feel like Google is probably going to be a little more secure with this than, say, ASUS or D-Link or Netgear, traditional router manufacturers.
They have more clues.
Exactly, and you're using that for more services. They have dedicated teams. Not that those other companies don't, but losing access to your Google account is a big deal.
Yeah.
Obviously, that connection only works when your internet connection is working. Right. But the upshot is that when the internet was, when the Wi-Fi router was a little jacked up and my wife couldn't get access to Plex, I was able to log into the router even though I wasn't at the house, open up the necessary ports, and everything just worked.
Cool.
Really cool.
Yeah, it's great if you have a server like Plex where you need to open a port to then broadcast out. Anytime you're running a home server, you may need to switch up ports.
And of course, it works with UPnP. So you shouldn't have to actually do that, assuming the other services are working right. But you can jump in there and open up ports. I'm going to show you how that stuff works right now.
Okay.
Let's take a little look at the app. This is the home screen for the app. And you can see it says, okay, we have internet access, that's green. We have a green dot for the router. You can tap in on that and see a kind of network map a la Windows 8, I think, or Windows 7 they added this. Right now we're in bridge mode just because of where we are in the office. In order to plug it in and have Wi-Fi access, I had to move it away from the cable modem. But if you're in router mode, it actually gives you real-time data on how much data different devices on your network are using as near as it can tell. If there's a NetBIOS or a Samba name associated with the device, it gives you that generally. So
cool.
My server's named Flanders. It says, okay, Flanders is using a ton of data right now.
Yeah. Otherwise, Apple.
Yeah, otherwise it uses the first part of the MAC address to know who the manufacturer is as registered. Or if it's an unnamed device, that means that it's part of a block that the people who assign MAC addresses don't know who it belongs to.
You can't rename that? You can't assign?
I don't believe you can. Let's take a look.
Nope. Nice. That's unfortunate.
In practice, this isn't particularly useful. It only seems to show data rates on things that are over wireless. When I tested it at home, some devices, I think Windows machines, were more reliable than, say, Macs or my FreeNAS box. This isn't a super useful thing. Now, the one thing that you can do here that is good when it's in router mode, we can't do it when it's in bridge mode, is set one device on the network to be the priority device. That lets you use kind of least common denominator quality of service algorithms to say, okay, prioritize all the traffic to this machine, everything else can wait.
Yeah.
That's useful if you're doing things like streaming video to the internet. If you're streaming a lot of video to Twitch or YouTube or something like that, you can do that, and that means that somebody else can watch Hulu in the rest of your house, and your Twitch streams will still be prioritized, so your audience doesn't suffer for your wife's Hulu.
Bandwidth caps, data caps per device?
I don't believe that you can do that stuff right now. It's the QoS settings. It seems like it does some kind of behind-the-scenes stuff to share. It does let you test the overall network bandwidth, so I'm going to run that right now.
Yeah, you don't need to go to speed check or speedtest.net.
I don't know what service they're using. I'm assuming Google has something set up that they use for this.
They have so many servers.
And it should, I don't know if it's going to work in bridge mode, but when you're in router mode, it tests both your local Wi-Fi speed, which is important for in-the-house transfers, and your external speed, which is important for things like streaming video from the internet.
Now, in addition to its pretty unique app-based design, which is not out of step with Google, the Nest, and other things, the Drop Cam, the hardware itself is pretty unique as well.
It's not going to show me Wi-Fi speed, but that is actually representative of what we're paying for from Comcast.
Ping.
No ping. They don't care about latency. It's just video.
Yeah. So what about the hardware design?
Well, before we get to that, I want to show the advanced settings.
Okay.
So you can, it's not going to let me do it here because we're in bridge mode, but you can set up static IPs, you can set up port forwards, you can turn UPnP on and off, and I think you can even clear the UPnP forwards if something, occasionally if something gets jacked up, you need to wipe those and start over, which isn't actually a big deal. But I think that's pretty much the long and short of what's going on. When you set it in bridge mode, obviously it pulls an IP from your DHCP server and then just passes through those signals to the other devices on the wireless network. Other couple of things you can change in the app: the brightness of the lights on the top.
So there are lights. I
There's
see
a light up here.
Ring of lights. Is that RGB?
Oh, wait, hold on. There you go.
There
right
you go.
there. See that blue light?
Yep.
Yep. You can make that dim or really not super bright.
Does it pulse? Does it breathe?
When it turns on, it goes from orange to blue when it's working. It's just kind of an indicator that, hey, everything's cool. There's also a speaker on the top. We'll talk about that in a little bit. It's kind of a weird thing. Google's premise is that you should put this in the center of your house where people are, so you get the best Wi-Fi signal, free of obstructions.
Right.
You're not supposed to hide this in a garage or a closet or something like that. I think that's an interesting idea, but I mean, my house is wired in a way that would make that not work with my current network setup, where my cable modem is, where the direct run that goes from the cable box to the modem is.
You need to wire an Ethernet cable discreetly to get to it and also put power to it.
Well, and you also need, if you're going to hook up a wired network, which I think probably most people don't anymore, you need a double run, presumably one from the cable modem, unless you're going to set the cable modem right next to it, and then another back into the wherever
it doesn't. I mean, it's not a very good physical wired switch.
There's no switch. There's no wired switch on this,
wire.
which is. Like, I've not looked at a $200 router in years that doesn't have at least a 4-port switch on it.
Well, Apple.
Okay, I haven't tested an Apple router in years because I'm not interested in products that don't have a 4-port switch on them.
Exactly.
Most of the routers in this price range have a very capable gigabit switch that even supports things like jumbo frames that are kind of edge features when you're looking at a $200 plus router, which is what this is.
No antennas either. Well, no visible bunny ears antennas.
The other thing I want to make sure we mention, if you don't have internet connection, the setup options are very limited. So if you're on the same network, you can connect directly to the device and you can configure some things, but you can't change things like the SSID and things like that. You can basically only change settings that relate to the WAN port.
So not a great just WAN.
It's very
closed network device.
If you don't have an internet connection, this is completely valueless.
Yeah.
If you don't have a smartphone or a tablet, you can't configure it. So there's no browser-based configuration for this, which is, I think, super weird.
Wah, wah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so hardware.
Yep.
There's 13 circular antennas inside the cylinder here. It's 2 3x3.
They spiral up?
I have no idea. They're inside it. I mean, we could cut it open at the end of this if you want. There's 2 3x3 configurations, which means basically 6 antennas for 2.4 gigahertz spectrum, 6 antennas for 5 gigahertz spectrum, and then there's one extra that's for congestion tracking. I don't know what that one does. When I set it to it seems like it lives on the same. It didn't jump around on Wi-Fi channels for me at all when I was doing testing and when I was looking at it with Chariot.
When you look at routers and laptops, people say, manufacturers tout, you have 2x2 or 3x3 MIMO, and that just means how many sets of transmit receive, and this is 3x3 in 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz. So if you have a laptop that's 3x3, you can theoretically get up to that 450 megabits per second.
More than that, actually. So with AC, you can go up. It should be 900, I think, for a 3x3. And when I've tested other 3x3 routers, like the Netgear R7000, I get the better part of 800 megabits a second, which is actually fairly substantially under the theoretical maximum for the 5.8 gigahertz spectrum.
That's
but
fast.
It's
close to a gigabit.
Near gigabit.
Yeah, for wireless.
And actually, it's theoretical gigabit maximum is 1 gigabit per second. In practicality, I get about the same speeds on AC on a MacBook Pro with AC and a 3x3 antenna on the R7000 as I do with wired, which is magic.
Right. I mean, for most people's internet connection, even like in your testing with this, you didn't get 800 megabits per second.
No, I mean when I was at the best, I got about 600 megabits a second. in a relatively close range without any stuff in between me and the router.
And if you're talking about from getting internet from your Comcast or AT&T, 100 megabits is fine.
Yeah, you're looking at your Comcast connection right now. The fastest you can get, I think, is 100 megabits. If you have Google Fiber, you can get significantly faster than that. If you have another fiber provider, you can get significantly faster than that.
That's right.
But the vast majority of users are going to see broadband speeds that are between 10 and 50 megabits.
That's right.
Not over 50 megabits.
So you're not really going to tax and take advantage, if you're just for internet connection, of 3x3 MIMO. But what about then the configuration for range, like the orientation of where you are around this router?
So, I have a small house. It's difficult to test because once you go outside, then everything kind of goes to hell. But I had good coverage throughout the entire house. It dropped down to 400 megabits in the far reaches of my garage.
And omnidirectional.
Omnidirectional round antennas. I mean, I don't have a way to visualize this, but my hunch is that we're looking at a torus-shaped area of coverage around the device that emanates out from this. This is the whole of the donut, basically.
Right.
It's a weird product to review, right? Because it is really, really easy to set up, which goes a long way for a lot of people.
For a lot of people.
The remote configuration is not unique in the space, but I think that this is probably the best implementation of this, and I feel much more comfortable about the security of that. But on the other hand, for the same $200, you can get the R7000 or comparable routers from D-Link or other vendors that are the same antenna configuration in a decidedly less attractive package that far outperform this.
Yeah, unless you're actually going to do what Google says and put this in a centralized location where you can maximize the omnidirectional and also send passwords over with the app. So you can, if you have guests over, you can just beam me a password.
Yeah.
They can log in without having to type in a long key.
Right. It's WPA PSK2 only, I think.
Okay.
I believe that you can't change that. I don't know if I can change that because we're in, let's see. I'm going to go over here right now. Oop. That's not what I wanted to do. There we go. Yeah, it's only PSK2. So that means if you have older devices that require PSK1, like a Nintendo DS or something like that, or even a Wii, I don't think you're able to connect to this router.
Right.
Okay, so the antennas are interesting. Performance is pretty good, not great. It's a pretty beefy amount of hardware in this thing. It's a dual-core 1.4 gigahertz CPU, which is kind of ridiculous for a router. It also includes a bunch of radios that they're not really using right now.
Well, there's also onboard storage. I saw a USB port.
There's a USB port, doesn't do anything that I can tell right now.
Printer connection?
Maybe you can plug a printer into it. I don't have a USB printer, so I don't know. I would think that you'd be able to plug external storage into it and use it as a NAS box. That doesn't work.
Okay.
It has a Bluetooth 4.0 radio. It has an 802.15.4 radio, which is the same spec that Zigbee uses, which is a home automation standard. And it supports a thing called Weave, which I think is a Google home automation kind of protocol for devices to connect to each other.
But all three of
None of those things are turned on.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, maybe in the future. It has this speaker. The speaker is on the top right there. You know what they use it for?
Google Now? Please say Google Now?
Nope. I don't think there's a microphone. It makes a kind of bing bong noise when you first set it up to let you know everything's cool. But if you set it up with the Android app, it will modem sound the configuration information to it when you first plug it in. It doesn't make modem sounds, I don't think, but it sends that information wirelessly over audio to your phone.
Oh, interesting.
Only with the Android phones, though. It's actually made by TP-Link.
Yep.
They make a bunch of highly reviewed routers. I know Wirecutter's favorite router right now is a TP-Link model that's similar to this one. So that's it.
Yeah.
I don't know that the performance problems actually matter for most people. Like the only way I can get 800 megabits of network traffic on a point-to-point connection on my network is by copying something from an SSD to my FreeNAS box, which has like 24 gigs of RAM and can dump the entire file into RAM and then write it out to the disks over time.
Well, what are the scenarios where you would have a traditional router and that you typically would need to either refresh a DHCP or drop people from that? Like this allows you then to just drop people and to refresh and from your app. You don't need to go on a web browser.
What do you mean?
Like if you need to just
kick people off your network?
and And
I mean, yeah, you could conceivably do that. I don't know if you can actually remove people from the app. I never even tried that.
Oh, that sucks.
It doesn't seem to have like the parental control stuff that lets you turn off certain IP addresses during certain times.
So monitoring devices, you're only seeing the device, data usage, you have
Yeah.
real-time data usage, but
You kind of have real-time data usage. That wasn't super reliable in my experience. This is probably the only device that's connected directly to this router, to the bridge right now.
kick them off.
I can't kick them off. It won't let me.
Boo.
Yeah. So if you wanted to kick your roommates off, TS. It seems kind of unfinished. Oh, the one place that the in-house high-speed streaming may matter, and in my experience, AC. If you're streaming to an 8.0, like streaming live video, say from a PS4 to a PlayStation TV, or from an Xbox One to a Windows 10 device. Obviously, wired is preferred.
Yep.
If you can't do wired, 802.11n is not particularly good for that. Right. You can kind of do it with 5.8 gigahertz N, but things like the PS TV don't actually support that. If you want to, I have had amazing experiences streaming from my Xbox One to a Surface Pro over AC. That is almost indistinguishable from watching on a TV that's connected with HDMI.
Cool.
And if you plug an Xbox controller in, you can play games on that Surface Pro anywhere in the house.
And with
which
devices
needs
like
AC.
Steam Link and
Steam Link's
boxes, so wireless becoming ever more important.
Presumably the Steam Link is an AC device. I don't think they've released specs on that stuff. Right. So like that's the only, if you're not going to run a file server in your house, that's the only reason I think you need this kind of speed. The other benefit of AC is, of course, a little bit enhanced range, and that's more on the 2.4 gigahertz side. Yeah. One thing that is worth mentioning, you can't set separate SSIDs for the 5 gigahertz network and the 2.4 gigahertz network. And some devices have a real hard time switching between those.
Yeah. Some devices can only connect to 2.4 gigahertz.
Yes, but also when you move, so 2.4 gigahertz penetrates walls better, 5.8 gigahertz gives better throughput. Yep. If you move, on most devices I've found, if you fall back from the 5 gigahertz network to the 2.4 gigahertz network, you're going to have problems jumping back up to the 5.8 gigahertz network if you get back in range. So your mileage may vary. Newer devices handle this better than older devices, but and newer OSs seem to do a better job with it than older OSs. So
Google OnHub.
OnHub seems unfinished. A lot of the radios don't work. It only has one LAN port, which I think is a boneheaded decision. I don't know that I'm adequately set up to test this. One of the things that they're saying is that with their congestion antenna, they can help you switch over to different channels and route traffic and open ports, Chloe, and all the things that they say in TV shows. I didn't see any evidence of that stuff working, but I also only have 30 or 40 devices connected and only 1 or 2 actually active at a time. Yeah. It is a dramatic improvement over 802.11n routers. So if you have an older N router and you want to get something that's pretty good and really easy, this isn't a bad option. But I am a little bit worried that the lack of configurability options are going to bite people in the ass down the road.
It's like this, or if you're on the Mac side, the Airport Extreme. So, I mean, those are simple devices. This is not to compete with a hugely, like a $300 crazy router.
Even like the Netgear R7000, which is the comparable performance Netgear antenna configuration Netgear, is like $180 retail right now. It is much more difficult to configure. If you want to make that even more difficult, you can put DDWRT on it and get an incredibly powerful router for a really bargain price. But you kind of have to understand, if you don't understand like core networking concepts like subnets and default gateways and stuff like that, this might be a better option for you. I also think I'm probably going to get one of these for my parents next time they need a router, because if I can hit that remotely, perfect.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so that's it. It's the OnHub. It's out now. It's $200. I don't think it's for you guys, but it might be for people that you have to help.
If you like providing tech support.
No, don't do that. It's a bad job.
Google OnHub.
See you guys later.
Bye.